So guys, many Nigerians have really been reacting on the legacies Buhari left behind. One of the things people have been criticizing Buhari on is his inability to have built a world standard hospitals, because Buhari was even sick before he entered Aso Rock, and from the time he entered Aso Rock, he kept, jackpine on medical reasons, and even until he left office after 8 years, Buhari didn't deem it necessary to build at least one hospital that can attend to his needs, and even after he left office, he still continued jackpine for medical attention. Now he ended up buying in the United Kingdom. So people have been really reacting on that basis, that see, if not for any other thing, Buhari had the opportunity to have built a very good hospital, because he became sick even before he assumed office, and from that time, he just kept jackpine. What prevented him from building a good hospital? Another thing Nigerians have been dragging to the is Nigerians that were buyed, at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos State during the NSAS protest. How Buhari allowed Nigerian youth's lives to be wasted, and till today nobody was held accountable. And another thing again Nigerians are reacting is that it's under Buhari's leadership that the 2023 presidential election was rigged. I mean, we all know that they saw Peter will be winning, and all of a sudden they told us that they had a glitch. Figures were all altered, both in Rivers, in so many places, Lagos State and all that, and till today they've not told us what that glitch was all about. It was under the same Buhari, that all these things happened, because for Buhari, he did not deem it fit for him, a Fulani man, to hand over to an Igbo man, and for them the last resort was to rig that election. Honestly, everybody knows that Peter Obi won the election. They decided to twist it, telling Nigerians that they had a glitch. Till today, they never told us what caused that glitch. And because they know that Nigerians will not react, Nigerians will not do anything. And like you can see that they've gotten away with it. So guys, I'm just going to allow you to take a look at how Ojupe and other Rise TV crew members have all analyzed the times and life of the man called, former President Buhari. We sympathize with the family, but guess what? Nigerians are not happy with the way he left Nigeria. Just take your time and watch this video and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now take a look.
Paying tribute to former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away in London on Sunday, July 13th, at the age of 82. His death marks the end of an era for a man who dedicated his life to serving his country, both in military uniform and as a civilian. Now, President Buhari has been a central figure in Nigeria's political landscape for over 4 decades, leaving behind a legacy that is as complex as the nation he led. Born in Daura, Katsina State in 1942, Muhammadu Buhari's journey was defined by a deep sense of duty and a commitment to discipline. His military career saw him rise through the ranks, culminating in his tenure as Nigeria's military head of state from 1983 to 1985. This period was marked by the famous War Against Indiscipline campaign, a stringent effort to restore order, integrity, and national pride. While his methods were often controversial, his supporters viewed them as a necessary antidote to the pervasive corruption and disorganization of the time. After years, the political wilderness, Buhari staged a historic comeback, embodying the aspirations of millions of Nigerians yearning for change. In 2015, he achieved a monumental feat by becoming the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent president in a democratic election. His 2-term presidency from 2015 to 2023 was anchored on 3 pillars: fighting corruption, tackling insecurity, and reviving the economy. In his inaugural address, he famously declared, "I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody." This mantra encapsulated the man, a figure of yielding conviction, who in the eyes of his admirers prioritized the national good above all else. In an exclusive interview with the Rise News in 2021, Buhari reflected on his life and time in office, wishing well for Nigerians and urging them to write his legacy.
Thank you very much for thinking that I'm okay. When I leave, I will be going to my farm daily. I will try and keep myself busy. I will try to keep on convincing Nigerians that I mean very well. And as I said, visibly, we made progress in the northeast, we made progress in the south, but I'm overwhelmed almost by northwest, and they are going to get it very soon.
Mr. President, what will be the Buhari legacy?
Well, I will allow Nigerians to discuss it. I hope they will be fair to me. I wouldn't like to say it myself. I would like Nigerians to try and spend time when we came, both economy and security, where we were, where we have been for the 8 years and maybe around, and try to work out. I hope Nigeria will be fair to me. This is all I need.
Well, Muhammadu Buhari's legacy will undoubtedly be a subject of continuous reflection and debate, serving as a testament to the profound and lasting impact he had on Nigeria's history. He's survived by his wife, Aisha Buhari, and 10 children. May his soul rest in peace. Well, there's a video that has now gone viral, which showed the moment Buhari's family found out about his passing. Let's take a look. Touching moment, Vimbai, that video that has now gone viral, showing his family, mourning his death right there in London. A lot of conversations have been had so far. But meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu expressed profound sorrow on Sunday over the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. President Tinubu eulogized Buhari as a patriot, soldier, and statesman, highlighting his unwavering dedication to Nigeria during his term as military leader from 1984 to 1985 and as democratically elected president from 2015 to 2023. He commended Buhari's quiet strength, integrity, and commitment to unity, emphasizing his efforts to champion discipline and confront corruption. As a mark of respect, President Tinubu ordered all national flags to fly at half-staff for 7 days and has called an emergency federal executive session. Tinubu also announced that the federal government will accord Buhari full state honors. First Lady Oluremi Tinubu echoed Tinubu's sentiments, describing Buhari as a great leader who served with unwavering commitment, integrity, and a deep love for his people. Both extended their deepest condolences to Buhari's widow, Aisha Buhari, the entire Buhari family, and the people of Katsina State, praying for his peaceful repose of his soul and for his life to continue inspiring future generations. So many tributes. Former military president General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida also paid tribute to former President Muhammadu Buhari. Babangida, in his tribute, described Buhari as a deeply spiritual man who found solace in faith and who carried himself with humility of someone who believed in a higher calling. His statement reads in part, "We may not have agreed on everything, as brothers often don't, but I never once doubted his sincerity or his patriotism. His passing today is not just the loss of a former head of state or a two-term civilian president. It is the loss of a symbol, a man whose life embodied the transition of Nigeria from the old guard to the new republic. A man who even in retirement remained a moral compass to many and an example of modesty in public life. To his beloved wife, Aisha, his children, grandchildren, and the nation he loved and served, I extend my deepest condolences." Also, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, in his tribute, described Buhari as a patriot and a statesman who tried his best. He prayed for the repose of Buhari's soul, stating that he would be deeply missed.
He tried his best. My
my prayer is that God will forgive him of his inadequacies and accept him into his kingdom. It's a loss to the nation, because at a time like this, we need the totality of the experience and what I may call statesmanship of all those who have had the opportunity to run the affairs of this country in the past to get us out of the situation we are in. He will be sorely missed, and may his soul rest in perfect peace.
We know that during Buhari's presidency, Obasanjo famously wrote at least 3 open letters criticizing Buhari's administration. Well, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, also paid tribute to Buhari in a post on X, stating that the news of the former president's death came as a shock to her because she had sent him a get well message shortly before learning of his passing. Her post reads in part, "Unbelievable. I did not know just how His Excellency President Buhari was, and minutes after sending my get well wishes, I have just learned that he passed away. I am so very sorry. May the soul of His Excellency rest in perfect peace. My deepest condolences to the entire Buhari family and his close aides and associates." Well, also Vice President Kashim Shettima, accompanied by the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, traveled to London on Sunday to bring the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari back to Nigeria. In his tribute, Shettima expressed profound sorrow over Buhari's death, calling it the biggest loss Nigeria has ever incurred in recent times, stating that Nigeria has lost one of its greatest leaders. Shettima, who recently visited Buhari in a London clinic at the president's request, lamented that Buhari succumbed to death just when a quick recovery was anticipated. The vice president offered his condolences to the Buhari family, Katsina State, and all Nigerians, urging them to find comfort in the lasting impact of Buhari's contributions to the nation. Outgoing president of the African Development Bank, Akiwumi Adesina, was the last known public visitor of Muhammadu Buhari. Before his death on Sunday, on April 17th, Adesina met with Buhari in Kaduna to express appreciation for his support during his election and re-election as AFDB president. Well, here's a photograph from that visit. Vimbai, we have seen tributes coming from different parts of the world, not just in Nigeria. I also know that the Katsina State governor has also sent tributes. Like I said, the vice president is in London at the moment, bringing Buhari's remains back home.
Absolutely. I've seen tributes from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I've seen President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, Mada Bio of Sierra Leone. I've seen Zimbabwe. I've seen, of course, they will continue to flow in because he was, we discussed his foreign policy earlier. He was somebody who made an effort to extend a branch and make sure he was connected with the rest of the world and ensure that Nigeria was not in isolation. And he's one of those presidents who lived through the era and had to govern through the era of COVID-19 and all that the global pandemic brought. We've looked at so many aspects of his life and legacy and his time in office, his time as a soldier and as a military head of state and so forth. And I think the consensus really is that I continue to use the word paradox. And it's just a moment of humility, I think, for all those in service, whether they be at the presidential level or, at whatever level you are in public service. Just a reminder that what we do when we are in public office counts, it matters, it lives beyond us. The impact we make on people's lives, whether it be negative or positive, it lives way beyond us. I know several people who are in deep sadness and mourning today. I know other people who feel otherwise to that sentiment. And I think more than anything, it should just be a call for our leaders to just remember that beyond office there is life, not just for them, but for the nation and the people that they are elected to steward over. And just to a sobering moment where they ask themselves, how will I be remembered? I love that question that Dr. Abati asked in that media chat that they had. And, the fact that he said, it's not up to me to, to say what I will be remembered for, what my legacy will be. And that's what we are seeing unraveling now. I watched a comment, I believe it was Frank Tietie, I think last night on Newsnight. Or was he with Charles Anyagole? I'm not sure. And he was saying that, we would have wished for him to have lived a little bit longer, especially into this current presidency, so that we could have been able to have deeper conversations about, the impact that he had on this current administration. Of course, in his absence, those can still be had, but just robust conversations that I think need to be had, and especially around the healthcare system as well. And how much are our leaders really investing in this healthcare system, and just ensuring that there's access to healthcare for all, from the highest office even to the lowest office. And I know there are also concerns around privacy and so forth, but for now, what can we do? We continue to pray for his family, we continue to pray for his loved ones, the people of Daura, of Katsina, all well-meaning Nigerians, because I think it's important to reiterate that although some may have a sour taste of his legacy, he was also loved by very many.
He was. I mean, he did have a cult following, and you're absolutely right. He was loved by many. May his soul rest in peace. More on milestones. It is with profound respect and a deep sense of loss.
Seem otherwise. That led to the ban of Twitter in this country, because people had to report that tweet and it was deleted, and they felt, oh, how would they delete the tweet of a president? Those that were caught in the web of Decree 4 seem otherwise. Omar Diko seem otherwise. The likes of the politicians that were incarcerated after the 83 elections, about 84 when he got in, don't see him as a hero. But some will see him as a disciplined man, anti-corruption hero. But people will also talk about that legacy and say, but people around him were corrupt. So they talk about being above board like Caesar's wife, but people around you are being tried for corruption, also speaks volume. People he incarcerated for political vendetta. People he tried to terminate their lives. The judges in the dead of the night that were harassed, that everybody said, this is an assault on our judiciary, seem otherwise. But those that were close to him say, he's a father. They'd even stretch it and say, the father of the nation. Those that believed in him prior to 2015 felt once he got that mandate, he was going to set Nigeria right. But what heralded is 8 years. Deepening of division, pain, lack of economic gusto and verve, lack of that economic fecundity. And even this current government blames him for the problems they are in now. So with great power comes great responsibility. But do leaders that seek power understand the responsibility, or they just want to be president? Those that see him as a hero will say at least he allowed for fairness in the electoral process. But that argument is also quickly punctured by the fact that he didn't sign the electoral reforms leading up to the 2019 elections where he was going to participate in. But they will also say, at least under him, oppositions could win governorship election. In fact, some governor in the opposition went to thank him. Some will say things like, oh, the electricity bill. Some will also say he did infrastructure, at least if not because of him. We'll not have railway, we'll not have the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, I will not have other infrastructure like that. That he did more thread of roads than anybody. But while we also talk about the rail line, some will also argue, where was there a need for the Kanu-Maradi line? President Buhari, when he ascended the throne in 2015, made the famous words that I am for everybody and for nobody. But some said he was actually for some people. He quoted Shakespeare saying there's a tide in the affairs of man. And we thought he had set the tone for the country he wanted to build. But today, like two sides of a coin, there are two sides to history of President Buhari. There will be those that will say, Veni, Vidi, Vici.
So?
But there will be those that will say, President Buhari, you caused pain, hurt, division, unfairness, and unkindness. Whatever part you take this morning, please remember something. We will all die. And what will be said after we're gone? I pay tribute to my king, our Sikuru Adetono, blessed memories. He did 6 decades there. He did his best to push forward and advance the cause of Ijebu land. Something dear to his heart in his last days was the Ijebu state. Some have argued, do we need more states? Some have said, possibly. The argument they even make is that it's only Ijebu land out of the former divisions that didn't get a state in the end. But his legacies are there. I took out time to read his book, his autobiography. He talked about his triumphs, his trials and travails. But one thing you cannot take away from him was that he had a heart for his country. Others might say otherwise because there are two sides to history. But whatever it is, like John Donne says in the death of those both men today, is that the death of every man diminishes us. We will all die. What will be said about you?
Okay. It was Chilon of Pata in the 17th century, a 7th century philosopher who said, do not speak ill of the dead. Also in Antigone by Sophocles, written in 431 BC, Antigone, the major lesson from Antigone is that, look, the dead must be honored. And then there is an Italian saying, Do mortuos nili nisi bonum. It also means essentially the same thing. So I begin with that theoretical concept. And also in Africa, people say, do not speak ill of the dead. When a man dies, it is assumed that all the sins of the dead are forgiven. However, while I quote that theoretical background, I have written editorials on Hastings Banda of Malawi, Idi Amin of Uganda, in the course of this career. Sani Abacha, where we said it as it is, because we had no other option. But I think in the case of President Muhammadu Buhari, who died yesterday, 1942, 17 December 1942 to 13 July 2025, it can be said that his legacy is of a mixed character. There are those who love him deeply. There are those who hate him as equally as possible. I think his career can be divided into 3 parts as follows. First, his military career.
He was one of those young men, 70 of them, who joined the Nigerian Military Training Company in 1962, I think. He was 19 at the time. And then, of course, it was from there that he was part of the team that was sent to Mons Adeshot in England to be trained as officers. And then he returned as a second lieutenant. He was maybe 20, 21 at that time. And then, you know, he became part of the Nigerian military. Now, key highlights of his career. During the counter coup of 1966, July counter coup, he was one of the officers who took part in that coup, removing Agunyi Nrusi from power. There are some people who will never forgive him for that. Now, when the Civil War began in 1967, he was in the 1st Division under the command of General Muhammadu, one of the finest officers ever to come from the northern part of Nigeria. From the 1st Division, he will later play a big role in the 2nd Division of the same military. And he was part of that team, the Civil War heroes who, well, kept Nigeria safe, kept Nigeria as one, as General General Yakubu Gowon will always say. That to go on with one Nigeria, you know, is the mission. Now, of course, after the Civil War, he was one of those officers who benefited greatly. In 1975, right, he was one of those officers who ended the Gowon administration. He was part of that coup too. And of course, he was rewarded. He has served this country as Federal Commissioner of Works. He has also served as Federal Commissioner in terms of petroleum resources. He has been, in the course of his military career, governor in Borno State. He has also, in the course of that career, been GOC in several brigades. So he distinguished himself as a soldier. In 1983, he was again part of the coup that removed the sitting civilian government of President Shehu Shagari. And he was head of state of Nigeria between 1983 and 1985. So in assessing his legacy, you could look at that face. As head of state, many will remember him for war against indiscipline, but they will also remember him for Decree 2, for Decree 4, his repression of the media. They will remember him for the 59 suitcases that nobody has been able to explain till today. They will remember him for many of the other things that happened within that environment with regard to, was it a 2.8 billion, missing petroleum fund that the likes of a public intellectual and academic, Professor Ayodele Awojobi, focused upon at that time. Now, I'll summarize that first phase. The second phase, of course, you could say, will be his involvement in politics. He then showed up in politics. He was part of the founding fathers of the AMPP, the All Nigeria People's Congress, the CPC, and then eventually he was part of the coalition, the All Progressives Congress, that branded him as a military ruler turned Democrat. And then, of course, he was Nigerian president between 2015 and 2019, and also 2019 to 2023, leading the APC. Now, that's very fresh in people's memory, and many will also remember him with regard to Twitter ban, with the restriction of the civic space. The third part of his legacy that I think many will remember will have to be, his involvement also in the politics of Nigeria. Well, if we have to talk about General Buhari, we have to be comprehensive. Now, so the third part will be how he transformed from being a soldier to being a civilian leader and a Democrat. And in that regard also, opinion will be mixed, because we have seen the statement by Sowore. Sowore has nothing to say nicely about him. There will be people like that. But there are also people like Garuba Shehu, who will say nice things. People like John Padden, who wrote the autobiography of Buhari. People like Femi Adesina, who out of loyalty to his boss has also been out there on the air. Now, very quickly, let me go to this second subject. The Ogbagba II of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetono. Now, he was one of the longest reigning monarchs in Nigerian history. He reigned for 65 years. He got to the throne June 4, I think, yes, June 4, 1960. June 4, 1960, when the Western Nigeria local government wrote to him and said he will be the next Awujale. He was a student of accountancy in England, having attended Uluiwa College, which became Adeola Odutola College. He then went to the UK to study accountancy. He was a student there when he was recalled, and he ascended the throne of his ancestors, having come through the Anikulaya line, the Obanta line, and the Belegua line. So he became, the prince, the young prince. 5 of them contested for that position, but he was the one that was chosen by the kingmakers, the Odis, as they call them within the Oshugbo tradition. And for 65 years, Oba Sikiru Adetono led that throne with charisma, with confidence, and acquired a reputation as one of the monarchs in Nigeria who could be counted for the honesty of his opinion. He feared nobody, perhaps because of the significance of his office. One of the reasons why there was an attempt in 1961, as young as he was, 26 at the time, to make him the president of the Western Region House of Chiefs. But that, of course, went to Oni of Ife then, Adesoji, Adereme, but he led his people with great dignity. And in fact, it was under him that Ujudi Oba became a global, international, event. But it was not only Ujudi Oba that you'll be remembered for. Under him, he encouraged young people from Ijebu land, entrepreneurs from Ijebu land. Ijebu land thrived. Ijebu people prospered under his reign. Now, again, some people will say that he's a very stubborn king. It's not in my mouth. It doesn't lie in my mouth to say that. But it's because of his insistence on principles. Many of the big people in Nigeria who tried to intimidate him, no, he refused. One of his dreams was to create an Ijebu state, but he didn't quite succeed with that. Well, I speak with him with very remote familiarity, because when his autobiography was written, Awujale, the autobiography of S.K. Adetono Ogbagba II, I was the official reviewer of the book. One of the things that struck me in the book was the extent with which he documented his disagreement with people, even with his own blood brother.
Yeah.
I looked at the book. I called, I think it was published by Mr. Musuru Publishers. I called Mr. Musuru. I said, why is this man writing like this? And you allowed him to just be attacking people in his, he said, you don't know the man. It's what he wants to say that he says. So he was that kind of person, who was very forthright, and he didn't arrange his mind to express his views. So we commiserate with the people of Ijebu land, the people of Ogun State, and everyone, who were very close to Kabiyesi. The other time I met him at close range was when I was running for the deputy governorship position, and we went to see him. Of course, that's the nature of politics, with Senator Buruji Kashamu, now of blessed memory. And he received us very well. He was the father of all. His door was open to everybody. So the Ijebu people will miss him greatly. The Ogun State people will miss him greatly. And Nigeria will also miss this revered monarch, one of those who could speak truth to power and not go and queue up at Aso Rock looking for opportunities.
Absolutely. There are 2 icons to memorialize today, and all for different purposes, for different reasons, and leaving different sentiments in people's hearts and in people's minds. I focus on the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, whose legacy is ultimately going to be that of a paradox. The man who was known as a patriot who loved his nation so much, but ultimately was criticized for not being pan-Nigerian enough. And that paradox followed him to his last breath as he joined the likes of Robert Mugabe and Edgar Lungu, who unfortunately passed away in foreign hospitals. Unlike the group of Nelson Mandela, Sam Nujoma, Kenneth Kaunda, who, when they took their last breaths in hospitals, they chose hospitals in their own countries. However, there's so much to document in the life because I continue to say that it was a life well lived, it was a full life. He's somebody who was able to fulfill all of his dreams. I mean, only 2 people in this nation, in this great nation, have been able to rise to the helm of affairs twice at different parts of their careers. So yes, as much as it is sad for those close to him who love him, it's also important to acknowledge the fact that I believe the man was able to achieve a good proportion of his goals. Now, some are writing about him as a reformist, and sincerely, we must give credit where credit is due. One of his greatest legacies, I think, will lie in the electoral reforms of 2022. Now, as much as this is not yet a perfect situation, and some might argue that he should have done it in his first term, and, besides pushing it forward to the second term, the truth is that the electoral reform has created a pathway for us to be able to start developing our elections and start furthering and deepening our democracy. The PIA, Petroleum Industry Act, again, the criticism would say that he pushed it forward to become the burden of his successor. However, he was bold enough to be able to implement that PIA. During his time, yes, he was able to increase the fuel price by 100%. But one thing that many people continue to talk about is the immense goodwill that President Buhari had. It's almost as though we have not seen the level of goodwill that he experienced as he came into office in 2015, and even throughout his tenure. There was a deep sense of patience for a large part of his tenure in office. People were understanding. There was very little pushing back, which is why now you see where we are, is that people are pushing back because they feel that, well, we were extremely patient and we gave a lot of goodwill to President Buhari, but after 8 years, what did it culminate in? And that's why people are pushing back sooner than they did during that time. But again, we go back to some of the positive developments of his legacy. We look at the revolution that took place in the digital identity systems. We saw the introduction of NIN, BVN, the digital economy, tech we saw great investments in the tech industry as well, and tech started moving forward and taking shape and bringing in young Nigerians. However, in the same breath, we also saw the ban on Twitter. So the paradox applies in many ways. Now, he's one of the group of presidents who found themselves thrown into the global crisis that was COVID-19. While many people might look back and say, when you look at the casualty numbers, the number of people who died, the number of people who were impacted by COVID directly as a health concern in Nigeria, you might say that Nigeria went a long way in being able to manage the pandemic. Because if you remember, there had been predictions. People had said that, once COVID gets to Nigeria, people will be dying on the sides of the streets. Yes, some people might say that it was due to environment or due to diet and so forth, but we also have to give credit for the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, what then happened afterwards? Where was the transparency with some of those funds? Where was the transparency with the palliatives? So the paradox continues there. Of course, the one that sticks sorely in so many people's minds is EndSARS. I was reading so many experiences yesterday of those who participated in EndSARS and what their life has been since that protest of 2020. Some who are stuck overseas, some who still live in fear because of all that transpired during that period. Many will still tell you there was no justice. What transpired? How could that have happened in this country? I remember hearing the sound of gunshots. I remember all of it. I remember the 24-hour curfew that came after, the spirit of fear around it. And we asked ourselves, was this really the best way to manage a protest against police brutality?
So guys, I'm quickly going to take you through some of the reactions on the social media. So many Nigerians have been reacting, and a whole lot has been happening, So let's take a look at this one. I have a video here on Twitter, watching Tinubu's body being wrapped. Being wrapped. You get to know that this life is nothing. The flesh is nothing. It is now becoming clearer to our politicians, They couldn't build hospitals home. They keep going to the UK. From the time Tinubu entered office, he has been going to the UK until he died in UK. Just take a little fraction of all the money and just give us a good hospital in Nigeria that will service both the politicians and some other, even if it's just the elite class. But they refused, they refused. Even Tinubu still jackpass to France. Nobody wants to build hospital. Why will you build? Mentality of African leaders. Now, this person say former president, late Buhari body, set to leave London to Nigeria. Rest in peace. So, the person was just showcasing his body being wrapped. So let me show you how Nigerians are reacting to this tweet. Now, this person said, sent back as cargo. They budgeted millions yearly for presidential hospital in Aso Rock, and they never cared if it worked because they prefer going abroad. But now they are shipped home in same compartment with animals. This makes sense, It really makes sense. They refuse to build. Just a little fraction of all the money Buhari built would have established good hospitals in all the states. I'm telling you. Borrowed Nigeria to stupor, but nothing to show for it. This one say, this is not London. Another person say, Rano Air, they fly London. Okay, possibly that video is not really Buhari's body. I don't know. Some people are saying this is not London. And this person say, now, how Hausa Pole don't fool London? Them for do burial there at once. They know they do you die for morning. They bury you for afternoon again. Okay, this person is saying that why are there many northerners in the UK trying to bring back Buhari's body back to Nigeria? That since there are many, they would have just held the burial day. After all, they always do like person die in the morning, burial in the afternoon, something like that. And another person say he will be cleared through custom like a foreign rice he banned. Stupid in life and death. Curse man who scattered Nigeria. Hey! That is going to be cleared through custom. And another person say, you think this is the real Buhari? They play. Another person say, no Nigerian president or governor should be allowed to go for medical treatment abroad. They should build great hospitals here with our money. Not even one of them is patriotic until they stop going overseas to attend medical clinics. This person said, this isn't London. Stop the lies. Another person said, one thing about VIP dying abroad, it will always be packaged as cargo. Kai. Each time they die abroad. Another person said, useless man. Body arrives as cargo consignment, despite the opportunities he had to develop a healthcare system and stop medical tourism. Buhari actually started immediately he entered office. He was very sick, just like Tinubu was very sick when he entered office. He started jackpine. He kept jackpine until he left office. He was still jackpine, and now he died again jackpine. So this person says in July 1984, a similar arrangement was organized by the federal government for Umaru, Diko, chartered plane, government aids and all that. This one says that's not London and that's not him. Anyway, you could see the northerners, including the governor of Borno State in that video, as if they were actually trying to, cargo somebody's dead body. This one says, person wey died since 2017. This man says, only God knows what's inside the bus. Another person says, there's nothing in that bus. If it's sure for owner, make owner do lying in state for 24 hours. Let's come and confirm. Oh my God. So there's another twist to this. These people are saying that actually there's no Buhari in that cargo. It's an empty cargo. that, you know, for some people they say Buhari has died long ago. So that what you are seeing is not Buhari. This person said, I'm so disappointed for everyone that will cry over his death. You know, so that tells you how people are feeling. Nigerians are not happy about, you know, how Buhari handled the country. So many things, you know, so many things. Now, this is Professor Amadi of Arise TV. And let me take you what the headline is. He said Buhari had a mixed legacy. He didn't quite get it right as president. Former President Buhari lived a simple and provincial lifestyle. His second coming as a president stressed him the verdict will be something close to he didn't quite get it done. He said Buhari tried, but he did not quite get it done. You know, former President Buhari has a mixed legacy. As upright as he was in physique, he was disciplined and courageous. Buhari's second term as president exposed he wasn't a man of integrity, but discipline and spiritual values. That is Sam Amadi reacting. Anyway, let me see how Nigerians are reacting to this Amadi's tweet, Amadi's statement. This was former President Buhari's time in office was far from perfect, but it deserves a fair and honest reflection. His administration was heavily criticized for rising insecurity, economic hardship, and ultimately for overseeing 2023 election that betrayed the trust of Nigerians. Despite the promise he made about transparency and electoral reform, the failure remains one of the most painful aspects of his legacy. However, Buhari's presidency wasn't without moments of democratic restraint and institutional maturity. A key example was Edo State governorship election in 2020 during a heated political battle between the governor, Godwin Obaseki, and his former mentor, Oshomole. Buhari allowed the will of the people to prevail, even though Obaseki had defected to the opposition. That decision shocked many because in Nigeria political climate, such neutrality from the presidency is rare. Many believe that if President Tinubu had been in power, the outcome would have been very different. Buhari also signed critical constitutional amendments such as granting state the authority to generate their own electricity, a step forward to decentralization. Unlike today's atmosphere of executive dominance, there was still some room for legislative debate and independence under his government. In the end, Buhari did not solve Nigeria's core problem, but looking back, his relative restraint in certain democratic processes, especially compared to the current administration, offered some stability and respect for due process. We don't need to rewrite history to praise him, but we do need to tell the truth. He got some things right and a few things right. He got some things wrong and a few things right. Rest in peace, Buhari. So you could hear that some things were actually good, but some are bad. Even Buhari couldn't survive Tinubu's economy. Says failure who couldn't manage a simple agenda. This person say Igbo man don't go dig, disgrace his people on TV. Igbo man don't go disgrace his people on TV. This one says, Doc tried to be diplomatic as possible, but it's difficult to be diplomatic when trying to describe the life of someone who was a failure as president. As President Buhari was a very big failure. So guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. These are some of the reactions coming from Nigerians. Sorry I couldn't shout in this video. I'm having cold and it's affecting my throat, and I'm just trying to manage to make this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you.